extraordinary scenes that we saw late last night in the United States as we saw violent protesters storm the nation's Capitol building at the very moment when senators and congressmen and women were meeting to certify the presidential election results. Donald Trump was basically encouraged, implored by Joe Biden, the president-elect, to tell the protesters who were there on his behalf. He told them to take back the country. He told them to march on the Capitol. He was told to tell the protesters to go home. Donald Trump did eventually do that, but as you just heard, his words were, "Go home, we love you, you're very special." Extraordinary scenes that have been happening. Coming up, we're going to be hearing from James Price, who's a former government special advisor here in the UK, now at Hanover Communications. First up, though, let's talk to Dr. Sebastian Gorka. He was and is advisor to President Donald Trump and host of the America First podcast. Good morning to you, Sebastian.
Good morning and Happy New Year, Julia.
Happy New Year. You and I have all long had very different views about Donald Trump. Do you now accept that people like me, who said that this man was unfit for public office, were right?
Not in the slightest.
Why not?
Because I look at the last 4 years, Julia, and I see perhaps the most successful president of the modern age, whether it's the crushing of ISIS, whether it's creating an economy prior to COVID, the likes of which we'd never seen in the Western world, whether it's building the wall, whether it's creating jobs for Americans finally that had been exported to China. This is an incredibly successful president. I stand by that despite what happened yesterday.
Despite what happened yesterday. Look, I'm perfectly happy to accept that actually Donald Trump doesn't get credit for some of the things he has done, like the Middle East peace process and others. However, for him to actually question a free and democratic election after 60 legal court cases to try and get it overturned, when the Supreme Court, which has got a conservative majority that he helped to assure that happened, voted those down. When the representatives of the American people themselves are certifying the election of his successor, for him to insist at a march in the US Capitol that people should march on the Capitol building and take back the country.
Julia,
he has to take responsibility for what happened last night, doesn't he?
Do not. I respect you too much to allow you to commit fake news live on talkRADIO.
Fake news. Which bit of that was fake?
He didn't say march on the Capitol and take it back. I was there. I was in the front row when he gave that speech yesterday. He did not say anything.
What did he say then?
Let me finish, Julia. Okay? He was talking about the process, the constitutional process, which we were going through yesterday, which we are permitted to do if there are issues with this election. And let me give you the facts of the case. There haven't been 80 lost court cases.
60.
There have been 60, 80, whatever you wish to use as the number.
Fake news,
there have been 60 instances of judges refusing to hear the evidence. Now, that's not a lost court case.
Sebastian, Sebastian, that is untrue. They asked the people to present the evidence.
Let me add
Sebastian, that is untrue.
Let me add one thing. They are polling all US voters. And in a recent poll from one of the most serious pollsters in America, 30% of Democrat voters, Biden voters, think the election was stolen. When 30% of the side that says they're legitimate says something strange happened when a cognitively challenged, senile old man who hid in his basement for 7 months is told to us got more votes than the first black American president, then we have to get to the bottom of it.
Sebastian Gorka, people thinking or feeling that something has happened isn't the same as it actually having happened. We heard that phone call when Donald Trump was speaking to Republican representatives, Republican officials in Georgia, basically telling them, can you basically find me 11,000 plus vote so I can overturn this election? And them saying, no, this you're wrong, and refusing to do it. Look, what happened yesterday? Donald Trump, while people who were his supporters, they were carrying Trump flags, were committing violent insurrection in your nation's capital. Guns were drawn, for goodness sake. That was happening, he said, go home, we love you, you're very special.
Julia, number one, and I said this on Twitter yesterday, anybody who's using the word insurrection, for what happened yesterday, is either a moron or is a propagandist. Never in the I taught irregular warfare for 6 years for
What
the
were they
Defense
doing
Department.
then?
No, Julia, give
What
me one
were
instance.
they doing
One
then?
instance in human history in the last 6,000 years when an unarmed group implemented an insurrection. And let's be clear, guns were drawn by police officers who shot a U.S. Air Force veteran, a woman yesterday who was unarmed, who was killed, Julia. Killed an unarmed woman. Don't talk to me about what happened yesterday with labels that are not correct.
If it wasn't an insurrection,
not correct.
What was it? Was it a riot? Was it a protest? Insurrection? A siege? What was it?
It was an illegal breach of the Congress, which was an utter, yes, technically that's what it was, a physical breach of the Congress.
They smashed windows and climbed in.
That's why it was illegal. Yes. That's why it was illegal. To say it's an insurrection.
If this were Black Lives Matter protesters, if this was Antifa, you wouldn't be using those words.
Well, this is exactly the point. We have witnessed 10 months, Julia, in America with $3 billion worth, with a B, $billion worth of damage done to this nation. Arson, looting, the murder of 30 different people since George Floyd was killed by that police officer. And we were told it's okay because of social justice, because no justice, no peace. We have had 10 months where the left, where the Democrats normalized violence, where they said, if you're going out on the streets with a banner that says BLM, it's okay.
No, listen, I agree with you on that. Look, Joe Biden absolutely did condemn violence on the streets.
After 6 months, Julia, after 6 months.
No, he did it much sooner than that.
After 6 months.
The key thing is, no, I think the media coverage for all that was very one-sided. I absolutely agree with you. However, two wrongs do not make a right. What would you have called the people who violently stormed Congress during the middle of a constitutional process yesterday if they had not been Trump supporters? What would you be calling them today?
What do you mean? I wouldn't have called them insurrectionists. Everybody who went in there and did damage to the people's house should be arrested and should be prosecuted. But the idea that it's an insurrection when an unarmed Air Force veteran is shot to death, with what justification? We have
people
one party,
fearing for their lives is probably the justification. Let's talk about Donald Trump.
Unarmed woman.
There is talk of the 25th Amendment being invoked. Calls on Mike Pence, the Vice President, and other members of Donald Trump's cabinet to basically remove Donald Trump from office as soon as possible, today if possible, and not allow him stay on in office to the 20th, the inauguration, because of fears about what he may well do in that time. Would you endorse that, or do you think he's perfectly fit to carry on in office after saying that he loves and thinks are very special people who storm Congress?
He didn't say that. Again, Julia, don't do this. I respect you
far too much. Sebastian.
He didn't say, I love the people who
go
stormed
home.
Congress.
Who was he talking to? Who was he talking to? He said, go home.
Julia,
we love you. You're very special.
Julia,
who was he talking to?
They want to remove from office the man who in that same video said, I want peace. I want peace. And then Twitter does what, Julia? Locks him out. I couldn't care less about
Twitter on this. Take back the country, he told
video.
people.
Removes that video, Julia. Who is more culpable for what happens next when the commander-in-chief, who won 73 million votes.
Yeah, and fewer than the man he was running against. Look, I'm not in favour of censorship. I don't think Twitter should be taking down his videos, or Facebook, or I don't approve of any of that. I don't think that's the biggest issue right now. Sebastian Gorka, you and I do not agree on this. I really don't understand how anybody could still be supporting this man.